Hello, everyone. I am Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and I am so happy about today's guest because we have been wanting to have this conversation for, goodness, it's been months now. And finally, we are here. I'm so glad. And don't mind the little orbs flying around. It's the sun and one of my what's it called? Crystal things that is catching the light. Unfortunately, we don't have all the rainbows, but we do have the light, which is really beautiful. But anyway, enough about that. I just want to introduce our guest, Emelie Capshaw. Welcome to the show, Miss Emelie. So glad you're here today.
Thank you, Julianne. It's so a pleasure to be here.
You know, as I mentioned, we've been wanting to have this conversation for a while. It has been internet issues, computer issues, weather issues, all these things. So finally, we are here. You and I had the pleasure of meeting not that long ago, maybe like a year. I think it's been maybe a year ago.
I think so.
Yeah, something close. Anyway, you captured my heart in a way, and I'm so excited that you're here. And I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I am Emelie Capshaw, and I live in Colorado. My family and I raise horses, and our kids, we rodeo, so we're a very active lifestyle. But my corporate career, I went through the accounting ranks and was at the Olympic Committee for a lot of years, and then the CFO at a Christian music label. And I've kind of switched gears, late in life, and now I found an amazing technology that I was helping people just live better lives. That's stem cell regeneration. And I realized, I looked down and saw how many people I was helping, just our friends and family, with this, and that I was making money with it. And so I'm like, why not focus on something that I get to do for me and that I'm helping others live better lives?
I love that. How did you come across it? Because not everybody knows about this technology. So I'm curious, how did it come across your path?
So yeah, it was actually a friend of mine was posting this stuff on Facebook, and she was in a car wreck, 20 years ago, and is partially paralyzed. And she was posting how she was getting nerves back in her hands, and her nerve pain was gone, and she had movement that she hadn't had. And so I finally called her. I'm like, okay, what's this magical stuff you're talking about? Because I too was in a car wreck 10 years ago and lost the nerves on the right side of my face and had a lot of hip pain from a reconstructed hip and, lots of back pain. And so I was like, well, what do I have to lose? And so she tells me it's this wearable sticker that you put on your body. It's the size of a quarter, and it's nanocrystal technology that reflects your body's light back into your body to generate copper peptides that activate your dormant stem cells. And so I was like, okay, what do I have to lose? What's $100? So I give it this try, and it's given me nerves back in my face that I'm almost able to smile completely again and, move this. And so once I saw the magic in this, I was like, oh my gosh, I binge researched it because I'm the accountant, right? So I had to go look at all the data, the research, the patents, the clinical trials, and then learned how it was working in the brain. So, really just started sharing it with my family and friends because I felt so much better.
I love that. I love that you not only were able to take something that was difficult, but turn it into something positive and sort of instead of keeping it a secret to yourself, but moving forward and helping other people. That's kind of remarkable. Is it hard for you to put yourself out there in that way?
It was. I think not that I had that wreck and that I was in, they didn't think I was going to live. They told my husband he wasn't going to see me alive. Flight for life me. Was in the hospital for 2 months, but I'm blessed like through the prayers and God healing me, but also good surgeons and medical care.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that I cared that people knew that I went through it. It was I never wanted to use it as a tool like for pity or to promote myself. That wasn't an attention getter.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of realized that through some of the networking we've done and other people I met, that there is a story there that maybe it could help somebody else, that what I've overcome.
I can relate to that 100% because I had a drinking problem and I overcame it. And I'm like, I don't want people to think of me that way because I've moved past it. Yes, it's something I
Mm-hmm.
went through, but it doesn't define me. And I think that that's kind of what
Exactly.
you're saying. It doesn't define you. Yes, you went through it. Yes, it was hard. And now you're on the other side of things. Um, but there is value in sharing a bit about your story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel, that it's not who I am. I mean, yeah, they told me that I probably wouldn't walk again, but here I'm riding horses and competing again. So I think I mean, a part of it, I guess, is who you are because it shows the strength that you have in you
Mm-hmm.
to overcome something like that. But it's not, I wouldn't say, yeah, define who we are, that we had to go through that.
Exactly, exactly. It's not the, yeah, you don't want to be defined. Let's recognize it. And at the same time, I'm past it. Like, I don't want to live there forever. I don't know about
Right.
you, but I don't want to
Yeah.
live there forever. But, when we are going through those hard times, there's like this, and it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it could be a car accident, it could be a divorce or losing a job.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what it is. When we're dealing with something that we don't necessarily want to be dealing with, all these sorts of negative thoughts and feelings come up and we experience them. How are you able to, you as a person, then now and moving forward, how do you get yourself out of that frame of mind?
That's a great question because that's another journey that we all go through, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do we have today is going to be a good day, right? And wake up and know that. And so, what I found myself doing was listening to a lot of like the abundance mindsets, like the Bob Proctors and those type of people, where but it's really taking a step in the morning, first thing, and looking at my blessings. And so I started writing down every morning what I'm grateful for. And it's amazing how that changes your mindset to start off the morning when you're focused on all of the good things, not the stressful things. Because, I mean, as silly as it sounds, I've seen it work that the more you put the good that you put out, the good that comes back to you instead of being negative and stress, then it just causes more stress to come upon you.
You're right. What you focus on expands, which is definitely one of those Bob Proctor type of ideas. Something you don't know is I actually got to see him speak in real life, which was
Oh, really?
yeah, it was
Wow.
really cool. And it was a small venue too. So,
Oh,
yeah, him, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Michael Bernard Beckwith, also, yeah, I mean, just so many people. John Assaraf. It was really
wow.
so much fun. Lisa Nichols. Yeah, that was really cool. So, I mean, I also start my day with gratitude. I think that that's really important. I always try and find three different things that I'm grateful for each morning. So I don't always say the same things like I've got a house to live in. People, I
Mhm.
always like, no matter what it is, it might be, something like, I've got a busy day today full of pot, or whatever it may be, but I always like to try and do something different. Do you have like a night routine as well, or is it just when you start off in the morning?
I like to finish my day out in prayer, and I try to write down my goals, like they say in all these things that you're supposed to do, but I'm not always really good about that. But just ending the day with thanking God for what I'm thankful for. It's funny that you say you try to think of new things, and I do that also. But there's some things that are just pop up every day that it brings so much gratitude to my heart that it's like being a mom to two amazing boys,
Yeah.
that they work so hard in their lives and the accomplishments that they have done.
Yeah.
That's like something that it refreshes that every day too, to,
Well, see, that's the other part that I think people don't really think about when they're talking or thinking about, for example, affirmations or gratitude. It's not just the words. It's
yeah.
like how it feels inside. Like if you are
Hmm.
genuinely feeling that, why wouldn't you celebrate it?
Yes. And I guess that was one of my most recent things that it's even made my life, I think, more happy every day, is that feeling that you nailed on that, is that you can't really, if you just say the affirmations and every morning and say I'm grateful and I'm thankful and I see myself doing this, but you have to feel it. And it's that,
Mhm.
you know, walking through your day with that emotion, I think is another turning point in just recognizing what you're grateful for.
Exactly, exactly. And, it does make a difference. And I haven't really shared this with a lot of people. So I'm going to share it with you and all the 105,000 people that are watching. But uh, when I started doing I typically do 3 different gratitudes that I'm grateful for that I write down every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband said after a while, he's like, there's something different about you. And I thought that was interesting that he could see a change in the way I was being in my day to day life because of the things
Yeah.
that, and that was the only change that I had made was to start writing down 3 different things that I was grateful for every morning. What else do you do that helps you? Like for me, if I'm in a funk and I need to reset, I'll either take a shower so the water helps, or I'll go for a walk with my
Mm-hmm.
dog, something like that. What do you do?
Mm. I go ride my horses.
I
That's
love
my
that.
happy space. And so with winter coming on, I'm not super excited about that. But yeah, it's crazy, like the animal thing and how therapeutic they are, and to have something that you've trained and that is now performing really well, and is one of the best out there, and that I was just blessed to have him, and then what he's become, and that I can go compete on him and win, and that I made that. And so just being around the horses has always been my just safe place and decompressor and takes everything bad away.
You know what? I love that you shared that. My parents had horses, and they were rescue horses.
Mm.
Well, they had 3. One was born while we weren't even sure if she was pregnant or fat. Like they couldn't get near her to find out because she was kind of a little bit crazy. But then they look outside and they see an extra set of 4 legs. And they're like, oh, I guess she was pregnant. Um, so, but part of that, was interesting was like learning about how how much personality horses have
Mhm.
and how every single one of them is so different. What is
Yeah.
something that you've just got, like you've learned about yourself from horses?
With this one in particular, he's a little crazy because barrel horses tend to be crazy. That's just one of their traits. And that's why my kids haven't stolen them off for a team roping horse. But it's patience. Um, because, I mean, he was really easy to train, but all of the things along the road, like pacing and, getting scared at silly things that he's should be over, and,
Mhm.
working through that because of all the other qualities he has and putting those aside to work through those, I think makes me realize that you have to always have patience, especially with training horses. Well, and training kids too, I guess. But
Even in healing,
yeah,
patience with yourself. It's kind of, I don't know about you, but for me, it's always easier for me to have patience with other beings versus this girl right here.
that's interesting you say that, but I guess through my journey, I've been bad and guilty about getting frustrated with myself or life, but then taking that out on them. And so that being a realization and looking back to what I've put them through, that's
Mhm.
been hard too. I mean, um,
You bring up a really, really good point that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, and because my mom passed away when I was 14. And so that was really difficult for me. My parents were divorced when I was really little, and my dad remarried when I was little as well. And so my stepmom's been in my life for like 95% of it. I mean, I was probably 3 years old when I met her, and I'm 46 now. But I really took out my pain on my dad and my stepmom when she passed away. And it was like, it's embarrassing to me now.
It is, huh?
It's embarrassing, but people don't
Yeah.
talk about that. People are afraid to say, like, I was a jerk.
Well, and I do. And
No.
I talk to the kids, like, they wouldn't tie a goat that we bought for their practice, their goat tying, and that you lose your just mind getting mad. But then in hindsight, it's probably all the other stressors going on in your life that was my breaking point. And they have to like endure that. And like, what an awful mom I am. But then even moving past that, right. And getting over it. But I think it's helped to not confess, like, admit to them that I was wrong and I am very sorry for that. Mm-hmm. And obviously, they have big hearts and they said, it's fine, Mom, whatever. Because maybe they've just learned to put the craziness aside too. But
you know what? So here's the thing that I like to think about. First of all, you're not a bad mom, because you aren't. The fact that you were able to recognize that you weren't perfect and recognize your behavior as being something that you didn't want to repeat, even though we all do anyway. Right. The fact that you talk to them about it and acknowledge the imperfection is giving them permission to not be perfect, and giving them permission to feel their feelings and learn how to deal with them in a healthier way. I think that is a beautiful gift that you've given them versus you being a bad mom, because it's really not. That's just being human. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Sure, that
makes me feel better, Julianne.
Well, I think about like my mom, the one that passed away, and she was a raging alcoholic, and she was sick, and she was not really very motherly. And I had a lot of resentments towards her for the longest time, because she never admitted to me about any of her behavior being less than stellar, even though she was vicious. But here's the thing, the older I got, the more I realized, oh my God, she did the best she could. So at least you have the opportunity to sort of remedy that with them, and, like, live with them and be with them and heal that part of the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a long time ago too, but
exactly.
I mean, I think that's what's so that has done that, and the relationship that I have with them is truly amazing. Like this weekend, I got to go with my oldest. He had qualified he's 16 and qualified for amateur rodeo finals in Colorado. And last weekend he was in Kansas at them. And then he also qualified the high school final. I mean, so they've just, both of them have world titles, in the Little Britches. So my husband's a good, coach and all of that stuff, that he's been able to groom them into that. So I had the opportunity to go and just be with him this weekend. I mean, granted, we were with his partner and his wife that's, our age, that longtime friends of ours that took him this year. But to have that time alone with him, and I guess it was just different that we just had fun together. And because he was, I've learned like to not bug him. Are you on your horse yet? Because he's old enough that he knows how to get ready for those events, and that we were just able to enjoy. It was pretty special.
See, I love that. And those are all opportunities that you might not have had and been able to experience. So, you know what, we're going to go to a commercial break a little bit sooner than we normally would, because I really want to start the conversation back up with how your life has improved with this technology that you briefly touched on before, and also go into how it helps people. And I mean, not necessarily the technology itself, but what the wins are, and really the quality of life that comes from it. So we'll be back in just a minute. So be sure to join us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I'm Julie Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and today's amazingly awesome special guest is Emelie Capshaw. Let's bring her back. Welcome back, my friend. How are you?
So good.
So before the commercial break, I wanted to come back and start off with a bang, because you touched on in the beginning about this technology that you were referring to, and you were talking about stem cells and light and all of these things. And, it's kind of hard for the layman to understand per se, but I wanted to touch on what are the absolute benefits? Like, what are some things, like, what does it do? What is it like? What's the experience? And how does it help? All the deets.
Sure. I could go on and on for hours about this stuff, just I guess because I've seen it change so many people's lives. Mm-hmm. So really, it comes in a package, but it's just this little sticker you put on, and you wear it, and it's made with crystals and sugars through nanocrystal technology. It's reflecting your own body's light, and it works off different frequencies, and what this one is doing is generating your GHK copper peptides that activate your dormant stem cells. And it's interesting that I learned through this that by the time we're 30, half of our stem cells are inactive. And then by the time we're 60, we only have 10% of our stem cells working. That's why, older people heal and we get wrinkles, and that those stem cells aren't going. And the beautiful thing about these stem cells is that they go, once you reactivate them, they're going and fixing whatever's broken in your body. Mm-hmm. So like for me, where it gave me nerves back and took my pain away, like for my mom, I put them on her just because her shoulder hurt, took that away, and has her feeling a lot better and moving around. But she had always had really high blood pressure, and her blood pressure is down.
So my question is, so I was in a car accident actually 2 weeks before my wedding. It was like a really bad one, and I walked away without a scratch, a bruise, anything like that. I mean, we're talking the airbags deployed. My car was totaled. I don't know how I walked away without even any sort of bruise whatsoever. And I was fine. But now I have some neck issues. So my question is, if I were to say use a patch, would I put it on my neck, or does it matter like where on my body it goes? Or
the clinical trials are all done on the back of your neck or below your belly button. But I have people like put it wherever they hurt. Like a friend of mine, her foot hurt really bad, and so we put it there, and now she's fine. And or if your back, I have another friend that it was her back, and so wherever I think it's more centrally located, but it goes in throughout your whole body.
Got it. Okay, I love that. And so I think it's fascinating that this little tiny patch, because it's like smaller than a nicotine patch. Not that I was ever a smoker, but I do know what a nicotine patch looks like. Smaller than that, they could do that much good.
Yeah, I guess my favorite story is we have a friend with lupus, and she was getting chemo twice a month. Oh, wow. I didn't know it was this bad. I knew her mom, and I was like, well, why don't we just try this? I mean, what do we have to lose? So, and her hands would lock up. She'd get stuck in the bathtub. She wasn't able to ride. And she called me a few weeks ago and about in tears saying, thank you so much for making mom get these for me, because, I mean, she's 25, I think, and that she's able to ride again. She's off the chemo. And this is not, I cannot make medical claims that it's not healing anything, because we don't do that. Obviously, we don't want to get shut down or make those claims. I'm not a doctor. All those. Not a doctor. But then to see how it's changed her life, or just even a little 13-year-old gal we know at the rodeos getting migraines and being able to put some different pain patch on there to take those migraines away, that she could actually compete that day. So helped a lot of friends with their migraines. And
so you bring up a very valid question and point that I'd like to hit on. It's like, how long does it take? Does it depend on what the issue is? Does it depend on the human? At what point do you end up seeing stuff? Because I think, and I'm going to use weight loss as the thing that everybody understands. You don't expect to lose 50 pounds because you went to the gym once.
Some people do, but yeah.
Yes,
but no, it's not a likely goal.
It is not a likely goal, but you understand, like, I think that people, especially in the United States, we have what I would call a microwave society. We want things right now. And if it doesn't happen as quickly as we think it is, we give up right before the miracle or before the miracle can happen.
Exactly.
So how would you know, like, how long should you give it? Like, I mean, how do you know?
So I think I'll stay on it forever just because I feel so amazing. Because it's with that stem cell, it's helping with your mental clarity,
Mm-hmm.
your collagen production, your energy, the sleep patterns in your body also. But I tell people give it at least 3 months because with stem cells, they can be going and fixing things you don't even know about first.
Yeah.
That's more messed up in your body before it's getting to the pain. And so I really just kind of come out with that. But I've had my good friend that she's actually doing this business with me and is another accountant, so I never thought she'd get into drug sales. But she saw something in a week that her back pain was completely gone. And so I knew her dad had COPD, so I wasn't letting her go. I kept pushing and pushing. Not, I was just knew how, I just wanted to see if it could help him. And so
Mm-hmm.
finally she said, okay, I'll try it. But then I've had other people that it really took the 3 months for them to see a good change, like either in their pain or
Yeah.
their other conditions around them.
Yeah, because it is hard to continue to do something when you don't see
Mm-hmm.
a result right away. That's why I think people give up with weight loss and,
Yeah.
even trying to get in shape or whatever. But I like this idea too, because you mentioned about fixing things that you're not even aware of, because there's so much. I think too that when we get to a certain point, we're so used to being in our body, we don't feel it anymore. We don't notice it because it's just how we are until it's
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Yeah. So it's interesting you bring that up because I have a friend that she had the fibromyalgia and she didn't, it was a slow progression, for her, but she'd go out and see people that she hadn't seen in a while and they're like, you look completely different. So she'd have to go back in her mind to where she was 3 months ago
Mhm.
and see that, oh my gosh, this like progression is big,
Yeah.
where people could even notice a difference in it, her.
Yeah, and that's one that I struggle with is fibromyalgia. And I didn't even really realize I had it for the longest time.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know. And I was just like so used to because I don't really go to doctors. So um and then somebody said something to me, I was like, oh yeah. And then so of course that's where it started, was with that sort of somebody pointing something out to me. And I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I should get this looked at. But I love this idea too. Like, I mean, just from the totally, because I live in Orange County, California. So anybody who knows Orange County, California, it's the land of Botox and Teslas, and
Yes.
it is all pretty people, and it's like no such thing as a wrinkle. So I have never done Botox, and I've got the wrinkles to prove it, but it would be wonderful to try something that is good for me that would help with.
Oh, that too. Yeah, my husband is not the most I mean, I love him. He's the best guy ever, but he's not super like we just don't say, "Oh, you look really great today, honey," or anything like that. But he said to me the other day, "Your wrinkles are like going away," and I was like, "I guess just another side benefit of it, right?" That
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if that's the side benefit,
yeah, right.
like why not? Why not go with that? I love that so much. And what about things like, so for example, I think I might have told you this, that my dad, he cracked a vertebrae. And is that something that stem cells, because I don't really know enough about it. Like, I just know it helps heal. So would that help with
Mhm.
the healing process more?
That's another one. I was watching a YouTube with a surgeon the other day, and he said he puts all of his patients on this post-op because the healing is twice as fast than without it.
That,
So yeah, I have a friend that she actually broke her back falling down the stairs, and she had tried everything like the PRPs, everything, and so it was kind of one of those things like, what do we have to lose? Let's see if it works.
mm-hmm.
And with her texting me saying how she can sit on her horse. Yeah, I have a lot of horse people. Sorry, like on her horse longer that she really couldn't before, and that she's not in tears, because this pain is now manageable, and she's only been on it for 2 months.
Oh, wow. See, that's amazing to me. And just like we're talking about quality of life here. It's not, it's
Mm-hmm.
just why not be as comfortable as possible in our own bodies? So, that, I mean,
That was a big
it
sigh.
sounds like a miracle. It's usually when people say something that's
I
like
know. Yeah.
that
Like
positive. it's hard
It's too
to,
good to be true. It can't do all that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
feels almost too good to be true. But when you say give it 3 months, to me, I'm like, okay, that sounds like reasonable. That sounds reasonable to me. Like that makes more sense to me than even like a week. I mean, hey, I'm not going to not take a result in a week, but
Yeah.
I like this idea. So I guess my question, and you may or may not know the answer to this because you may not. I don't know, like if this is out of your um, knowledge base, but okay. So the question is, if you go to a chiropractor, they will say you need to have this and this and this and this done in order to feel better in your spine, and like it will help with your digestion and blah 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 blah. But if you go to say a masseuse, the one that does it professionally, not as for like a sports massage therapist or somebody that does it for healing purposes versus
Right.
just feeling good, like a Swedish massage, they'll say, well, you don't need to see a chiropractor, you need this. But my question is like, I think it's all encompassing. Like you don't need necessarily not one or not the other. It's like it's a whole
Well,
thing. Like
yeah.
everything affects everything else. So what do you know? Like, does this kind of help the underlying everything?
Yeah, I think this is healing your body from the inside out. I have worked like that's kind of been some of my networking here in town is chiropractors, massage therapists, physical therapists, because I've seen so many of them implement as part of their practice too,
Mm-hmm.
like nationwide and through our team and our networking, so that they've seen it help their patients. It's just another modality to help them, but it's not going to replace like your nutrition. You still, even though we're fixing our bodies, we still need to give you the proper nutrition that you have the energy to go on through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's literally just another piece of the puzzle to overall health and wellness.
I think that you bring up a really, really good point that a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm doing this, so I can eat whatever now. People don't realize that, yeah, it still matters what kind of fuel you're putting in the car.
Right. Yeah. Granted, this can give you energy, but if you put the right foods in too, you're going to get.
Exactly. And it's like your body needs to eat, it needs to be able to process, it needs to be able to do all of these things that if you're not putting the right stuff into it, it's not like I think it's the same idea as exercise. A lot of people think, oh, well, I ate this, so I'm going to go exercise. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. You can't out exercise a bad diet. You just can't. There's no such thing as that. Like it's going to do the damage it's going to do. It's like saying, well, I only smoked a little. But yeah, you bring up a really valid point. Did you notice too, like when you started using this technology, that all of a sudden it was easier for you to start making healthier choices for yourself?
It really was. I don't crave. I mean, they have different patches for different that's tap into a little different frequencies of your body, and one of them actually that I haven't used yet, but I'm thinking of trying it. Well, going to try it. Is balancing all of your hormones and your thyroid and your pancreas, so your ovaries and all of that stuff. So it's helped a lot of women with like menopause or just a lot of, and then one of our added benefits of this is that a lot of people on this lose weight because it is bringing your thyroid into balance and hormones. And a lot of times that's why people gain weight. And
And yeah, I would think also too it would help with inflammation in general, wouldn't it?
yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess that brings up my next question, which is you mentioned that there's different ones for different frequencies. What if you wanted to try a bunch? I mean,
Totally
patched up everywhere.
Well, I mean, there's not a ton of them. It kind of depends on your goals, but I always like people to start with the stem cell one first so they can feel the benefits of that one
Got
and not because if you put all these on, it can be kind of overwhelming, but there is like a glutathione that a lot of people with cancer are using and seeing really positive results because those are taking the bad things, increasing your body's glutathione production, not flushing it, doing a glutathione push with IVs where that's able to detox your body with the same frequency, the same technology with that light frequency.
Oh, I love that. See, I think that that's really good. So start with the stem cell and then you can play around with other things. I
Yeah,
figure like that would be really like the most healing, like across the board to start there. And then you can, yeah, because it's kind of like I think too, if I'm hearing you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but it's like if you were on like living off a diet of say McDonald's and donuts and things of that nature, and you went 100% from that to straight up vegetables and clean protein, your stomach would be so messed up. That's the change itself. It's not that you're making an unhealthy change. It's just such a shock to the system. Like that detox process, that, healing is like, boom. It's like a slap to the face. Would that be kind of like if you were trying to do more than one patch, kind of like?
I've heard. I guess I did start my dad on a couple more because there's a one for the brain, lung, and heart, too, that I just saw really positive effects with my mother-in-law with her dementia. And so sometimes like it fits into what you're trying to do. But then like an athlete, we've seen a lot of athletes in Paris this last time using patches. And actually his first patch was the energy patch that he came up with 20 years ago. And in 2008, when the swim team swept the medal stand, they were using those patches. So just the energy and stamina. So then there's also with athletes, and that I work with physical trainers to, help or coaches, that they use the X49 that is actually a muscle. It helps you build your lean muscle. So again, it just kind of, I always say like, I don't really even talk about those other ones a lot because it confuses people. So let's just start with X39 and then we'll go from there.
Well, yeah, when you put too many choices on the table, it's hard to start because it's like, what do I do?
Exactly.
That's a really good point because a confused mind doesn't choose.
Exactly, yeah. So I really just don't even talk about those till later down.
So does it get to the point where, it's more like a maintenance kind of a thing versus fixing?
I guess it's really not an age defining product. It's age reversing because really they say a month for every decade that you are old, you're actually taking your age backwards. So, and then I still like the energy, but it's never going to take you, if you stopped using it, you don't have to use it forever. It's not going to put you back to where you were the next day. It's just going to stop making you better. Yeah. And then start your journey back towards it. It's not going to jump you clear back to where you were feeling before.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good thing so that people aren't afraid to start too, because, this idea of if I stop, it's kind of like if you stop using the wrinkle cream or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, bam. Yeah. No, I like that. All right. So we do need to go to one more commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to continue this idea and this conversation about health improvements and ways to be more in our body and be healthier and what it's like to make more positive changes. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer. You're watching Own Your Wellness, and today's guest is Emelie Capshaw. Welcome back. So during the break, I was thinking about this idea of becoming even better in our own bodies, like feeling more comfortable and alive. Because when we're little, we never think about like my knees hurt, or or if I do this, I'm going to be sore for days on end. Just somebody like my husband who is into pickleball, for example, something like this would be really helpful, wouldn't it? Like with the other things that he does, like just for the energy, and like he's got pickleball elbow and things like that. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that something like this would make a huge difference for his athletic performance, because you mentioned about athletic performance before.
Yeah. So a lot of it is you're seeing a more increase in your stamina and energy, but then also because it's increasing some of the other cortisol, lactic acid, I think is, I'm not the doctor person, but I know that I've heard enough about it that it helps with that substance in your body that makes your body sore after you work out. It's, increasing that so that a lot of these athletes that we put on these, they're not getting sore after they do a big lift the next day or something. So they're able to perform better too from not being sore.
I love that. I think that's really remarkable. And you're an athlete in your own right with horses. So I'm just curious, besides doing these patches, what else do you do in order to be at your peak performance?
So I guess I'm like old school that I like the beach body stuff. So I have the app. It just there's so much. We live out east of town, and so it's kind of hard to get to a gym or to classes and stuff. So that way, I find out if I have that, I can just pop Shanti in for 25 minutes. Then I can get that in for, but there's so many different workouts and with weights, without that's really how I start every day before I go out and even get the kids up.
I really like that. And something that you said that I really want to point out, you said 25 minutes. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, I don't have an entire hour or hours to do this. It's not what, it doesn't take that necessarily. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I'm the queen of 30-minute workouts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't want to be in the gym that long. Like that's not, I have a gym literally across from where I live. So
Oh,
it's
perfect.
not even, I mean, maybe a minute walk. So it's not bad, but I don't like the gym. And as somebody who used to be a personal trainer, that's kind of funny to say, but there's different strokes for different folks. Like it doesn't have to look the same way for everyone. And then, you mentioned too before about like food, but also the point that I wanted to point out was like you talked about Bob Proctor and people of that nature. It is important what we feed our mind. It is important, the kind of information that we put in there. Is there any like particular books that have changed your life?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of those books that I've read. Well, I listen because we drive a lot to all of our horse events. So, but I have even made the boys start listening to some of that. But like the Mind Gym, that teaches you more of how to then compete. He coaches a lot of baseball players, but that positivity and learning all the time. We listen to podcasts that are other big team ropers in the business that the boys like to learn from. But then the Bob Proctors and the Tony Robbins, those kind of people too, to put that. I guess it just reinforces that positive energy that you're not getting the bad things out there. So we don't watch the news because that's just negativity that adds, and bad things that add to your body, your emotion, and takes away from the good things.
It really does. And if you ask a therapist or anybody that's dealt with depression and anxiety, one of the first things that therapists tend to do is put them on a news fast. And my thing that when people say, well, you don't watch the news or you don't know, and I'm like, trust me, people will tell you what's going on. If you need to know something, they will
Right?
tell you. Like, you don't need to watch it.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. And ultimately, I always think about, is this affecting my day-to-day life? Or can I do something about it? Because if I can't do something about it, why am I going to pop that into my day-to-day information?
Yes. You
I'm
nailed that. That's like something my husband's been harping on me, not harping, but trying to reinforce with train my brain because when I get stressed about something, he's like, "Can you control that?" And I'm
Yeah. Can you control that?
because what good is it going to do me to get worked up about something that I cannot control?
Exactly. And that's easier said than done. It goes back to, but the first step is awareness.
Mhm.
And once we can sort of like look at that and go, oh, yeah, I can't really change it, it makes it a little bit easier. Something that I do when I come up with challenges or into challenges that maybe you can relate to is I'll say something to myself like, oh, this is interesting. This trigger is like, thank you for showing me. I must be ready to conquer this at this point. I must be ready to take a look at this now because I'm feeling pretty triggered by this. I don't know. Like, what do you do when things come up that, I mean, ultimately, we want things to be a certain way in our life. It rarely ends up like that. What do you do when things aren't going the way you want them to?
You know, what I've caught myself now that it's helped with not overreacting and letting it ruin you is taking a pause to just stop and to like take it all in and then realize that okay, no, I can't control it, and then what am I going to do to move this forward in a different direction? So I
Yeah.
think the pause that I've put in has helped me because I'm not there yet. That I've just magically changed from focusing on the negative to take that pause, then to reset yourself.
That's a very valid thing. And even when going back to like the whole health thing is when we get this diagnosis of cancer or we get this diagnosis of whatever, it's like you can take a pause. Very
Mm-hmm.
rarely do we have to act yesterday when something like that is happening. And I think that a lot of Western medicine, and I'm never going to put down Western medicine, but at the same time, I think there's more to it than, Western. Um, we don't have to automatically go into surgery and have things removed. We don't automatically, I mean, it might be the answer,
Yeah.
but we don't have to do it that moment. Like we can sit and, ask second opinions and things like that. So when you were healing, they were wrong about you, right?
Yeah.
So were there things that were suggested to you that I mean, obviously you're like, that's not going to be my reality because you were able to change that. So you couldn't have necessarily taken to heart everything you were told. But how do you take a pause in this? How did you take a pause in that situation?
I think it's just refusing that that's the diagnosis. Like, it was just never an option for me. That this is not how it's going to be. I'm going to be this way. Um, and I've seen that in a lot of people, like with their cancer healing journeys. That if they say you're going to die in 6 months and you choose to accept that, then that a lot of time, most times, that's what happens. But I was listening to a lady who just chose that that wasn't the journey she was going to go on, and to be different. And I've gotten to know her really well. That she just chose an alternative way to live and conquered what they told her she couldn't.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too that's interesting. I have a friend, Sherry Gideons, and she was told she needed a heart transplant and that she had like maybe a month to live. I mean, it was like dire, dire. I mean, it's been 10 something years later and she never had the heart transplant. She decided to heal herself. And, she did it through positive thinking, health, diet, exercise,
Mm-hmm.
all the things that, and laughter. That was, I mean, people underestimate the power of laughter.
Yeah.
What do you think is one of you? I mean, besides this technology, which is very exciting. I'm so glad that we have you here today to talk about it because not everybody knows. But what would be your secret medicine or secret ingredient to healing?
I think it's the positive that you can't, if you have that negative and will, I guess, being strong headed. Because I've always been that way. And when you're married to another strong headed person, you have two strong headed boys. Yeah, it can kind of get crazy. But really, I think that's, what made me so strong is just knowing that that's what it was. And I made up my mind and no one was going to deter me from that. So it's the strength in your mental capabilities to pursue through those things, but then having that positivity with it as well.
I really like that. It does make a huge difference. Yeah, I like this idea of saying, nope, not for me. Nope, not gonna happen. Um, I've shared on this show before about my mom. The last thing she said to me, because she, like I mentioned, she passed away when I was 14. 2014, but she was basically in induced coma, and the nurses said, tell her it's okay that if she dies. Like, let her know it's okay for her to go. And I was like, all right. So I did what they said, and she sat up in bed.
Oh, geez.
She was in a coma, and she sat straight up. She looks me dead in the eye and screams at me, "I'm not going to effing die." And then bam, right back down into the coma. That was the last thing she ever said to me.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's so like,
I love you, honey. Go live a good life. It was.
yeah, I know. I'm not going to effing die. I mean, I'm giving the PG version, obviously, but at the time it was traumatizing, not going to lie. Like, that's, but now I think that was such a gift because, one, I knew she could hear me, and two, because of that fighting spirit. Like, I know whatever it is, I can have that too. And it's like, she was there, I just think that that's like one of the most beautiful things, even though it was, like I said, traumatizing. But anyway, we are running low on time, and I don't want to make this about me. What is one thing that people don't know about you that is pretty exciting or cool?
Well, we kind of already touched on all the crazy rodeo stuff that we do. My crazy thing. It was interesting that I like to say that my great grandfather was on a mission in Japan. And so my grandmother was born in Japan, but he actually did the translation of the Japanese surrender during World War II. So I think that's the random thing of your history that is kind of neat.
I think that is really cool. I think that is absolutely remarkable because, I mean, how often do you get to hear something like that?
Yeah.
So I've been popping up your website throughout the show, off and on. Is this the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, there's actually a button on there that you can click a consultation with me. Just a 15-minute to see, if it might be worth your time and if you're interested and what, how we can get you set up with it. But there's also then a link to learn more about the technology, and it kind of talks about the light and how the healing. And there's a medical doctor kind of going through it more from a technical standpoint. So there's a lot of information there as well as by contact.
Well, the thing that I like about that too is that people can do their research and find the research, and they don't have to take our word for it. They can do it themselves and figure it out. Yes. We're just here to be the messengers to let people know that it is available for them.
Yeah, that's why I love that, because you can really, that site, this is it info, but it kind of has all the information that you could want. Like if you want to read the clinical trials and the patent information or hear other doctors talk about it. So, and a whole page of testimonials. So that's why I like that page. It's just full of information as much as you want.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, Emelie, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being with us on the show today. I'm so glad we finally got to have our conversation.
Thank you so much, Julianne. You're such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for those of you who are watching us today. We will be back again next week on Thursday. So until then, enjoy your week.